I want to take just a few moments to say thank you so much today for everything that you do every single day. We know that you act as unsung guardian angels for people during their worst time in their lives. And unless you've lived this experience, it's very hard to know what it's like. But like all of you, I've lived it too. For 17 and a half years, I worked long hours the way you do. I know what it is to have to react first and feel later because I've been there too. The frustration of not knowing what happens at the end of the call, I felt that too. And every single day, all of you do this and ask for nothing in return. There are no thank yous. There are no pat in the back. There's no, atta girl, atta boy. You go to work every single day knowing that you make life and death decisions, and no one really is there to understand what you go through. But this week is a little different. With National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week, it's a chance for the entire country to say thank you to all of you. And I hope that, we can accomplish that, not just with this call, but moving forward. It is no slight, that
what address are you
the
calling?
folks in your profession that fall under the same category as you currently, such as secretaries and the like.
Is she still there?
There's no slight to them to say their job is not as important as yours. But I think that there is an opportunity here to highlight exactly what you do every single day. I want to start by saying that we have introduced or reintroduced the 911 Saves Act again this year. We have began those conversations not only in the House of Representatives, but also in the Senate. And if I can find my notes here somewhere, I want to give you an update on that bill. How many folks we have.
Are you're blocking traffic, or are you in the middle of the
Okay, so in the House, we have 128 co-sponsors, 85 Democrats, and 43 Republicans.
Are you in traffic?
Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick is my Republican co-lead on that. And by the way, if you have an opportunity to reach out to him, thank him for his leadership in helping to bring along Republicans to support this bill. In the Senate, we have Senate Bill 1015, and it is called Supporting Accurate Views of Emergency Services Act of 2019. In our House, it's called the 911 Saves Act. So in the Senate, the new version of that bill is Senate 1015, and it also has Republican and Democratic co-sponsors. So Senator Richard Burr, Republican, and it's co-led by Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar. This legislation has 27 co-sponsors, 7 of which are Republicans and 20 of which are Democrats. So as you can see, we still have a long way to go to educate members of both houses, the Senate and Congress, on why your job is so important and so key. So I hope that you would join me this week in sharing some of your stories. I know that my staff has reached out to your 911 centers to ask for tapes of 911 calls that you have taken, and obviously those are subject to approval by your departments. But we want to start highlighting some of the work that you do, sort of like a public's view of a day in your shoes, to get people to truly understand. Here in California, you have a California legislator that has introduced a bill Many of you have seen the opposition coming out of the firefighters and the letter that they sent out. It's unfortunate.
Sarah, how can I help you?
This is not new to me. This is the same opposition that I have faced in Congress, and I know seeing it, for you seeing it for the first time here in California and your home state and being so close to it, I know that it must feel pretty frustrating. But don't feel like that. I think that this is an opportunity to educate them on the work that you do. Not that they shouldn't, they should not be taking you for granted. They should know exactly what you do, but it's obvious they don't truly understand your commitment to your work and the importance of the work that you do. So with all that, I want to open it up because I want to hear from you how you're dealing with COVID-19, how this is impacting your everyday work, your families. How are you managing with teaching your children and having your children at home if you're married or if you're a single parent? All of those things I think are critically important for my office to hear, because we need to share those key stories with the general public. So we'll open it up for questions, and thank you again for joining me today on this virtual town hall.
Right. Thank you for that, Congresswoman. We can go through the different dispatch centers that are on the line. Just as a reminder for everyone, when your dispatch center is called, just make sure that you're unmuted. You can see on the bottom, there's the microphone down there. Just make sure you're unmuted. And then when you're not speaking, feel free to mute that. That way we don't get echoes. For those that have video conferencing capabilities, feel free to show your camera so that we can all see you in your everyday work. So with that, we will start with the lead agency who really kind of kicked us all off with this call, Ontario Fire. Brian, are you on the line?
Taking the time to reach out and speak to us. I've got. Sorry, I had some feedback. I shut that off. So my folks are in the background. We're just watching. We're very appreciative of your time. I'm curious, can you maybe touch briefly on what dispatchers can do to help support the 911 Saves Act?
Absolutely. Well, number one is reach out to your individual member of Congress. But more than that, reach out to other 911 centers across the U.S. Many of you are already in touch with them. After 9/11, I think many of our dispatch centers began to touch base with each other, and they've stayed in contact. So if your dispatch center is one of those that has been still in contact with other 911 centers across the U.S., reach out to them, and because it is important for everyone to talk to their members of Congress, to talk to their U.S. senator, and to talk about your everyday experience as a 911 dispatcher. Maybe invite them to your 911 center and have them plug in and listen to the 911 calls as they come through. Or even, have them plug in and listen to the radio on traffic. And hopefully you'll get a good pursuit or a good following during that time. And so they can feel for themselves, a little bit of the adrenaline that you feel and the stress that you feel when you are sitting on that hot seat, actually doing the work. For most people, they really don't understand. They don't get it. I think, California being the pursuit capital of the world, we see it on TV and we're sort of immune and we see it as entertainment. But not very many people really understand the stress that you're dealing with, coordinating what is happening behind the scenes, coordinating different agencies and resources, and ensuring that those officers behind that vehicle that they're pursuing continue to stay safe and get everything that they need. So I would say, that is one of the things that you can do to help me. Talk more through social media. Reach out to other elected officials and tell your story.
Very good. Thank you, Congresswoman. I think that's all we have from Ontario Fire. Again, thank you for your assistance. And on behalf of my team to everybody on the call, happy Telecommunicators Week.
You too. I hope, Brian, that you guys got some hand sanitizers. And if you didn't, let me know. Let my office know. We'll get something over to you.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Thank you, Brian.
will do. Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you.
Next up, we have Ontario Police. Do we have a representative from Ontario Police Dispatch on the line? Ontario Police? Okay, great. We can come back to them. I think we have CHP Inland Communications on the line. California Highway Patrol. Okay. Next up, we have LA County Sheriffs. Just as a reminder to unmute yourself, it's just a little microphone icon on the bottom there. One last time, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Okay, what about San Bernardino County Sheriffs?
Hi, we're here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, first I'd like to thank the Congresswoman for her time today. We really appreciate you working with Brian and coordinating this for us. It's very, very well received. And also thank you for representing the 35th district out here in San Bernardino County. We've received a lot of support, and as the Sheriff's Department, I think we're doing really well. Our employees have responded very well. As you know, we're the most resilient professionals, I think, in public safety. We've worked really well with our union as well to be able to accommodate our employees when the schools shut down. None of us could really predict or plan for that. So I think as we're managing and as more information and more is becoming known about the virus, we're adapting very well. And I'd just like to personally thank you for the support for our agency and reaching out to us. So that's all we have from the Sheriff's Department.
Thank you. May I ask about childcare services, if your folks have had issues, or how are they dealing with that as childcare centers have shut down and schools have shut down? So
they've really dealt with it individually. We immediately, as a department, as soon as school, because as a county we have a number of school districts.
Right.
They put down in different phases, so it wasn't like all at once. So what we did is that we got in front of it and reached out to our employees. If you have an identified issue, let us know how we can help you. Adjust your schedule. So they all handled it individually.
Okay.
We were not in the position, I know that other large departments were, to call on nonprofits to help offset costs. I know that other agencies in other states have been able to do that. So we were able to work that out immediately. But I also believe we were at a very large advantage because we're a large agency. And we were able to make shift adjustments and not impact our service to the community.
Okay.
But childcare is a very important thing. I think moving forward into the future, we really need to address our ability to provide childcare for our department members. As you know, about 80% of our staff are primary caretakers, whether that's for children or parents. So if we could do something like that, like they do on the federal level, I think it would be a huge game changer for us.
Yeah, it's such a challenge, especially for the shift work, the night, either graveyard or the swing shifts, for them to find childcare is already challenging as it is. And I know that when I worked, I depended on my husband to work days and I worked graveyards, so we would take turns with our kids. When they were, infants, we had a family taking care of our children, but that's not always, a luxury that many of the dispatchers have. So thank you for that input.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Jacob?
Great. Thank you, San Bernardino County Sheriffs. I think we just had CHP jump on the line. CHP Inland Communications, are you there?
Yes, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yes, we can. You're on the line.
Great.
Hi, this is Lieutenant Vita Fleeton. How you doing, Congresswoman?
Good. How are you, Lieutenant?
Just fine. First, I'd like to thank you for the donation of the boxes of hand sanitizer. These essential items help our dispatchers here, keep them safe and everything. So we really appreciate that donation.
Sure.
And I'd also like to wish everyone the happy National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week. And what I'd like to do is just have one of our dispatchers here. I have her here, dispatcher Marcella Jensen. And she's going to speak a little bit as a mother and everything as a dispatcher and what she's going through right now. Okay, we'd like to share that.
Hello, Congresswoman. It's nice to meet you.
Hi, Marcella. Good to meet you too.
I just want to personally thank you from Inland Comm Center for everything that you've done for us. It's been really important to have somebody like you in our lives because you've been there. You've understand everything that we go through. Even from the beginning of your speech, when you spoke, it's like you spoke directly to us because you understand. You understand the struggles of having to go through a day of dispatching and coming home and just rethinking your day. Did I do that okay? Did I speak to that person all right? Did I take that radio traffic okay? So I just want to personally thank you from all of us for everything that you've done for us.
Sure.
And here, go on, I'm sorry.
I'd like to hear some of your challenges that you may be facing during this COVID-19 time that we're all struggling with.
I have, my situation is a little bit different. I have 2 kids, but they're at home that they're over the age of 20. And unfortunately,
Okay.
both of them have been laid off because of COVID. My boyfriend, he also works at the Rancho CHP office. So it's 2 people in the household that are kind of in and out of the house. So we've kind of developed it where the boys stay at home, and they don't go anywhere. And it's just the boyfriend, he goes out and he does the everyday weekly shopping. We don't go anywhere. When it's my days off, I stay home. Here in dispatch, we've been a tight-knit family, but it seems like since this had happened, we've become more tight. Like, for instance, grocery runs. Since we don't go to the grocery store that often, all of us kind of get together and say, hey, if you happen to go to the store, do you see rice or beans or anything in particular that we might not have our own stores? Everybody kind of chips in together and helps each other out.
That's really great to hear. Thank you for that.
Thank you again.
All right.
Thank you, CHP. Up next, I think I had called out Ontario Police before. Do we have Elizabeth on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Liz.
Hi there. How's everybody doing?
We're great.
Fabulous. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. I'm sure I'm repeating everybody, but we appreciate everything that you're doing for us and taking the time, especially, in a situation like this where everybody's a little bit more taxed and, their daily tasks are added to in addition to the crazy stuff that we already find ourselves doing, but now we're trying to handle this at the same time. So we really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us and see how it is that we're doing.
Is there anything specifically going on at your center that traditionally, has not happened, but you're doing as a result of COVID-19, or any specific challenges that you may be seeing with the types of calls coming in? Is it higher volume or less, or the types of crimes that you're now receiving?
We're not actually seeing, as of right now, a higher call volume. We're staying pretty steady. If anything, we're a little lower.
Okay.
It's more so the changes in procedure that are,
Right.
I mean, we have such a great staff. I don't want to say are impacting our staff, because they truly are an amazing group of people. So they roll with the punches, and, dispatch, it's, they're super adaptable, and they just go with it. But the biggest impact on us is the changes in procedures and the responses that we send to calls and how to handle calls and the things, the additional questions that we're asking. The trying to explain to people why certain types of calls aren't going to necessarily get a face-to-face with an officer.
Right.
Making sure that we're taking their temperature twice a day, making sure that they have all the PPEs, making sure that the dispatch center is, that access is restricted, to try and protect them and all of those things. So it's not so much a call volume impact as it is trying to remember with each day that comes and the new guidelines that come out and the new changes in policy or procedure coming either from the city level or the chief level, trying to maintain what it is that they're supposed to be doing and keeping up with that.
Are you on 8 hours, 10 or 12-hour shifts?
Our dispatchers, it's a 12-hour shift, but they work 11.5, so they get a 30-minute unpaid lunch, but they are 12-hour shifts. If we have call-outs, they are held for 16s. And that's a mandatory hold for a 16-hour shift if there's a call out. So they're long days.
They're very long days, with each other. Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, like I said, thank you again. We appreciate it and everything that you're doing for us.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. From Ontario PD. So next up, we have Riverside County Sheriffs. Is Timothy Buckfeller or another representative on the line? And also just another reminder, when you unmute yourself, you can also turn your camera on if you'd like, to video chat with the Congresswoman. So Riverside County Sheriff. Okay, we can come back to them. I believe we have Pomona Police on the line. Barbara, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi, Barbara.
I really appreciate that you're doing this video conference, by the way. I think it's an awesome thing. We probably should do it regularly. It'd be a good idea.
Okay.
I want to just reiterate some of the things that Elizabeth from Ontario said. We're also facing some of those day-to-day changes and everybody trying to be on the same page. It's kind of hard sometimes. The judgment has to come in and what's the logical thing to do in certain circumstances. For the most part, our citizens have been pretty supportive, but there's always the ones that are, they don't understand and they just don't want what they want, and that's hard to deal with sometimes.
Right.
We have not had so far, knock on wood, a problem with childcare with our people. It seems that either somebody is already having to stay at home from their job or they're able to work it out. But I think this has brought to light that we probably need to have something in place for emergency situations. So definitely we're going to have to consider that for the future. And thank you for the hand sanitizers. I made a note to thank you. It was a nice surprise. I was off when you dropped them off or somebody dropped them off, but I was like, oh, that's so nice. We're celebrating, trying to, stay positive. We're celebrating National Telecommunicators Week. We're doing travel theme for the whole week since nobody can travel. We've done a theme thing for every day. We're having fun. Today is animal print day. It's a safari kind of thing. We did Melting Pot Monday. Tuesday was Tropical Tuesday. So we have a lot of things in place to keep us upbeat and going on and, We're getting a lot of support from our department, which is really nice. I did read the letter from the California Firefighters Association about the 911. So disheartening. So
I know.
I don't know what we can do to kind of counteract that, or at least bring it to the forefront again, because I don't want everybody to just kind of let it go because they're such a big organization. So that worries me a little bit. So maybe we all need to get together.
When I first read the letter, now, I've heard those comments, over and over and over again, right? But I wanted so badly, and it's not fair, but I wanted so badly to keep that from being publicly released, because, I know what that does to your morale, right? It's already, you're in the trenches, you're doing God's work, and nobody really sees you. The officers hear you, the citizens talk to you, but nobody knows that there's a human behind that, coordinating all of those things. So I knew that was going to be a really, really tough time for people to read. So what I want to say about that is, don't take it too hard, right? This is the politics of the work, right? And for the most part, 911 dispatchers have really never ventured into the political world. It's been very, very difficult, even when I worked at LAPD, to try to get my dispatcher colleagues to go to a union meeting and just to get involved in the union part of the work, right? Much less getting involved in going to a city council meeting and talking about the work that you do. Good or bad, you have to talk about the work that you do, but it's not something that we're comfortable doing. It's not a world that any of us want to get into. I certainly did not want to do that. I ran for local office, over over a local issue here in my backyard. But before that, in LA, I got involved with my union and became a shop steward and started going to city council meetings in Los Angeles out of an issue. And it was, over a call that I took, a 911 call where a little girl, was murdered at the hands of her uncle. She was shot 5 times. Her murder unfolded in my ears. And it was horrific. I'll never forget that incident. That has lived with me. But taking that call, I went from being this, square mom, living in all I wanted to do was go home, take care of my kids, and I don't want anything to do with politics, to all of a sudden, I had to learn to speak out for myself, for my colleagues, and for my community. So again, it's something that we're going to have to learn to do. It's something that we can't afford not to get involved in. And I hope that everyone will take an opportunity to reach out to the firefighters that you talk to as you're transferring calls, your medical calls to them. Maybe in the parking lots, approach them. Not in anger, but in a way to help educate that you're not seeking this change because of a status. You're seeking this change because it's needed. My experience in dealing with that was in the state assembly when I was first elected in 2008. And when at that time, Governor Schwarzenegger furloughed the CHP 911 dispatchers. At that time, some of you old timers might remember, CHP was taking the bulk of the 911 calls that came from cell phones. Mm-hmm. So every month I wrote a letter to the governor's office trying to get him to exempt 911 dispatchers from those furloughs. It was a very tough time in the state. We had a $15 billion deficit. Nobody got paid for 6 months. Nobody got paid for 6 months. But he understood at that time the importance of exempting first responders. But because 911 dispatchers were not classified as first responders, they were not part of that exemption. Now, couple that furlough mandate with the already under deployment that they went through every single day, right? Because they didn't have enough dispatchers answering the phone. There were thousands of calls. By the end of, I think it was a 3 or 4 month period, it was 164,000 calls that went unanswered to 911. Imagine the liability of that.
Right.
Not to mention that those furlough slots were being backfilled by sworn. So the cost, that they were trying to save really quadruple per shift. The overtime cost of forcing people to work overtime to make up for those lost positions, it just didn't make sense. But had you been already classified as a first responder, it would have been an automatic exemption, which is what should be required to begin with. So this is what we're trying to accomplish with that bill. And I would say speak to it from that perspective and from those experiences that you have working every single day. You don't have an option. I remember, when I lost my home to a fire in 2005, one of the very first calls that I made while the firefighters were still here, with the water hoses and trying to turn off the fire in my home. I remember being in the car and calling work because, remember, they have to know where you live. They have to have a way to contact you, a phone number. So I had to make that notification that, suddenly I was homeless and I didn't know where I was going to be. Unfortunately, during that time, this is how callous our job is. This is what people don't understand. I remember the person asking, okay, so what kind of time are you going to use? It's not, see, it's not that, it sounds very, very callous, but we're like, those are the tough questions that we have to ask, that sometimes we don't think about the human side of that we're dealing with every single day. We deal with it through our callers, but we don't treat each other that way. And I think that that's part of the what we have to change, is that we have to put that human face and that human perspective behind the work that we do. We're not machines. You're real human beings. That squawking that you hear in the background, I have a bird and he makes a lot of noise. So, forgive me for that. It's part of being at home. Anyway, thank you for joining us today. And
thank you.
Wish you the best and reach out.
I am going to be motivated to get that going because it's important, I think, we need to be recognized in that way.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Barbara. Next up, we have Los Angeles PD. I know that they may be on the line. Not sure if they were able to hop on, but LAPD, do we have a representative? Okay, we can come back to that. Fontana Police Department, do we have Wendy or another representative on the line? Okay, I believe we do have a representative from Upland Police Department on the line. Graham Hendrickson, are you on the line? He may have just hopped off. Okay, next up we have Colton PD.
We're here.
Hi, Colton.
Hi.
How you doing?
Time today. We're good. We're good. Just trying to isolate ourselves here.
Absolutely.
But
so tell me a little bit about the challenges that you're going through.
well, we have a very small department, and usually, the officers will come in and out of dispatch in between doing their calls and things, and they've pretty much been banned from dispatch. Nobody besides besides dispatch and the watch commander and above are allowed in here. And so, and then it's been the same for other parts of the department too. They're pretty much like records. Nobody's supposed to go into records either, but we're such a small department that usually we're like mingling with each other throughout the day, you know, and it's been really hard. It's
that isolation of having to not be around people is hard.
Yeah, the feeling like that, because we're a family, and feeling like we're not able to, you know.
Right.
I mean, that's been the big thing. Do you have something to add, Nicole? No.
Has anybody been sick, or have you had any issues of having
we do have
calling off?
We do have one dispatcher that may or may not have contracted the virus. She was very sick for a while, though. We've been very, very worried. She has been back to work though now, so she's doing okay. But you know, it was a little scary.
Yeah, in a small department like yours, makes it that much harder because then you have to backfill that position.
Yeah. And we have a limited number of dispatchers as well. You know, we have generally 2 to a shift. Unless we have a trainee, then we have an extra one. But yeah, if one person calls off, we have to, you know, juggle schedules and, you know, like everybody else though. All departments I think have to do that, right? Somebody has to fill in for whoever's not there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate seeing you.
And thank you for everything you're doing. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Colton PD. Next up, we have Chino Police. Do we have a representative from Chino Police on the line? Okay, next up, we have Blythe Police Department. Are you on the line? Okay, and then all the way from the Coachella Valley, Indio Police Department, Lori Brown, are you on the line?
Good morning. Yes, can you hear me?
Hi, Lori.
Hi. Thank you so much for putting this together. I know we're not part of your district, but we'd love to tag along with the San Bernardino peeps and
absolutely.
And just thank you so much for all that you're doing for the 911 community. We just can't even say thank you enough. You know,
you're welcome.
During this time, I think I just have to tell you that the people in your district are just doing such an amazing job. Let me close my door. Sorry, there was some noise in the background. You know, they're really leading the front in this, at least in Southern California, with Brian and Kim Turner and just all of the people in San Bernardino that come together and really think outside the box. They're really raising the level of the challenge for the rest of us. And so it's nice to participate with them. And I think that we, through this, have been able to not only reach out locally in our own districts, but also across county lines to really think about what our contingency plans are. You know, what is phase 1, what's phase 2, phase 3. And we haven't had to do that before. So if nothing else, there is something good that's coming out of this. And we never knew we could do so many things virtually.
Right. Including this.
Yeah, right. So as far as our everyday experience, we've had 2 dispatchers that have had to be out, 2 out of 10 that have had to be out on precaution quarantine. Wow. And but they're back to work and all is well, and they did not have the virus. That was good. And, you know, just I think the hardest thing, as other people have said, has been the isolation. Dispatch was the first to be locked down because we truly realized that that is the one part of the department that cannot go down. You know, we are that essential worker. And so that's why I really appreciate what you're doing, because otherwise we are essential workers today. And then when we finally realize that the government just spent so much money on this and there's nothing left in the budget, we're going to become furloughed workers tomorrow.
Right.
I appreciate that you're leading this front. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I think just for my staff that I know they're, you know, all writing notes, you know, what you said, I think really sums it up, that your city government recognize the critical work that you do. And that is why you were the first department that was identified as, you have to be isolated. They have to protect you because those positions are really key. It takes so long to train any one of you to do that, or a person to do that job. That is why you're critical workers. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
You're welcome, and thank you again.
Absolutely. All right, Jacob.
Great. Thank you, Indio. Next up, we have Cal State San Bernardino University Police. Do we have Scott on the line?
Can I speak for Scott real quick? He said he doesn't have a mic, but
Sure.
he would like to know what the timeline is for the process to go through for, I believe, the legislation.
Yeah, so for the timeline for our bill in Congress is, first it has to be heard in committee. Because of COVID-19, most of the committee work right now has been not completely shut down, but is sort of in limbo. We're not doing committee hearings at this point. So the bill, will need to go through a markup, what we would call a markup in committee. As far as the state bill, I'm not sure what that process is, but if you leave your contact information, we'll get all those details and send your department, and that goes for any of you that might want to receive an update on any one of those bills. We're happy to send you an update as we get them. I know that we're sending the author of that bill a letter of support. So if your department wants to do that, I would love to have a letter of support from your departments for my bill, and I know the state legislator will also like to do that.
Thank you.
We can send you details of where you can get that, where you can send it.
Great. Thank you, Kim. And then last but not least on our list here, we have Cal Poly Pomona University Police. Are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi.
Hi, good morning. I've been trying to get my camera to work. Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
Oh, okay.
See you.
I don't know what's on. I can't see myself, so hopefully it looks okay. Good morning. Thank you, Congressman Torres, for having this. It's just really nice to be recognized and for people to know the job that we're doing and how important it is for our community. And thank you to you for giving us the donations of the hand sanitizer. We really appreciate it. And I know you mentioned it to other agencies, but if you guys reach out to her office, they will bring you stuff that you guys need. So thanks again for that. Important thing for us has been just keeping morale up, like the other small agency Colton PD was talking about. It's been really hard being a small agency and kind of being cut off from everybody when we're used to seeing everybody before they start their shift, when they end their shift. So it's been hard having to self-isolate our dispatch center because we are such a close-knit department. And luckily for our agency, working with the Cal States, they've been really accommodating with time off for childcare reasons, for taking care of elderly parents, and then for any illnesses that we might have where we feel like we need to self-isolate to save, all the people in our department from exposure. So we've been really fortunate in having time available to take without using any of our personal time banks. And then we've also luckily have been able to shift around our hours and just go down to a skeleton crew of one person in there at a time to be able to accommodate everyone's issues with whether childcare or parents. And I definitely appreciate having a job that I can come to and not having to worry about paying bills and other issues that a lot of my friends and family have been having to deal with.
Absolutely. And so the students are not there right now. What's your call load? Because you still have folks, coming in and out of the campus, me included, by the way. I love to go to that, the farm store. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. You get really great strawberries there. I would highly recommend that to any of you. And not a lot of people know about it. It's like the best kept secret here at Cal Poly.
It was. I know one of the first weekends that it was hard to get food when it panic really set in about things being shut down. We actually, for the first time, had a parking lot full and a line of people waiting to get in when it opened.
Oh,
Because I think people thought, well, who's going to think of the farm store, and knew there was stuff for them to buy.
I was one of those.
So for the student body, the majority of the student body is left, as well as faculty and staff. Even our facilities, they have maybe one person that's here during the day, and then everyone just gets called in for emergencies as we need it. But the students have not been mandated to leave, so we do have a population that's still here. That way, if they don't have a safe place that they can go to, or they just don't have availability to get home, they have a place here on campus to live. But our call volume has dropped, and then our officers also, because they're not out doing any sort of proactive policing. We want them to social distance as well, and not go out and be out with the public if they don't have to be. And then we're also doing a lot of reports over the phone that we normally wouldn't do.
Okay. So you're doing a lot of that, or the officers are helping you do that?
For that, we would still just take initial information, and then we have the officer follow up for the report.
Okay, but they're still over the phone?
Yes.
Okay, well, very good. Well, thank you, and thanks for going to work today, and thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you so much.
Sure.
So that was the last dispatch center on our list. If there's anyone that hasn't gotten a chance to speak, or if there are any lingering questions, feel free to bring them up now.
Okay.
Okay, Congresswoman, you are free to provide closing remarks.
Yeah, once again, I want to thank you and wish you happy National Dispatchers Week this week. I wish I could have visited with you in person. A little bit of personal news from me. Many of you know that I have been on a leave of absence from my job at LAPD. As of April 24th of this month, I will be officially retired from that job. It's sort of bittersweet because, it kept me tied to not only my friends at the 911 center, but also to, the job that you do every single day. But as of the end of this month, I will be officially retired from that job. But, just because I'm no longer Congresswoman / 911 dispatcher, that doesn't mean that I am not continue to be tied to you and still committed to helping you with all of the challenges of your job. Certainly getting you that certification is at the top of my agenda. But more than that, I want to make sure that through that certification that we will be able to get grants for your departments to ensure that training continues to be a priority, personal training for you and for your departments on dealing with the evolving changes that we are seeing in our communities. You are part of that first responder community. You are a critical part of that. We can't forget that. So do what you can to tell your story to every person that you know, that you come in contact with, and reach out to your legislators at every level, I would say, and make that pitch to them. Why, your voice should not only be heard, but the humanity behind your voice needs to be seen. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate this and hope to be with you at your 911 center soon. Take care.
And Congresswoman, Sheriff's Department, we're hiring part-time, so you can always still work dispatch.
I wanted to go in and plug in one last time, at LAPD and do a shift, one last shift. But with this quarantine issues and COVID-19, I don't think that that's possible. But I would have loved to have done that. Maybe I will after.
You're always
Okay.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Brian.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.